I'm very excited to welcome you to our CRM session on understanding the advantages of Microsoft Dynamics CRM and how it can elevate your customer experience. So with that said, it is my great pleasure to introduce Matt Foy from our team. Matt is our lead consultant in CRM. So Matt, over to you.
Thanks, Angela. So this session is a bit of a change of topic from the previous sessions. So we're not talking about Business Central anymore. We're now talking about Dynamics 365 customer engagement. So we'll be giving a brief overview of what that is and what that means and what it was previously known as well as a few of the out-of-the-box kind of first-party applications that Microsoft offers for Dynamics 365 customer engagement. We'll also talk about how it can integrate to Business Central, as well as how it can be extended to track all sorts of different things. So Dynamics 365 Business Central does have an out-of-the-box integration to customer engagement. They're not the same system, but they can speak to each other pretty easily. Now, for a little bit of clarity around what CRM is, or customer engagement, I may slip up and call it a few different things throughout the presentation, but it used to be known as CRM, or Customer Relationship Management, and now it's known as Customer Engagement. So it was rebranded relatively recently. And it sits inside of the Power Platform, which is a low-code environment that allows businesses to kind of build logic apps or flows or kind of canvas apps to easily track things and, basically have an easy way to build automation and, business capability there. Now, Power Platform and Dataverse have a relationship between each other where every Dataverse is in the Power Platform, and the Dataverse is like a database, and the Dataverse is where the customer engagement apps all sit. So if I pull up this little kind of conceptual map here, you can see how these things relate to each other. So on the left, in kind of the biggest box, we can see Power Platform, and inside of that we've got the Dataverse, which you could kind of think of as Dynamics 365 customer engagement, but you could have Dataverse apps that aren't technically one of the out-of-the-box customer engagement apps. So it's a little confusing, but bear with me and you'll get to see kind of what this all is as we go through this. So there are a few different out-of-the-box apps, and in the diagram, just kind of by way of example, I've shown how the sales and customer service apps use some of the same entities or the same tables, and how those tables can talk to Business Central. So this isn't a complete diagram because I don't want to completely overwhelm you with 100 little boxes and arrows, but it shows how you could have a bi-directional integration between the accounts in CRM and your customers in Business Central. Now, of course, there's many other things that can be integrated there, but this gives you a sense of what's what and what sits where as we go through this. So on the right here, you can see kind of the conceptual map or the brand offerings in the Microsoft Cloud. So Dynamics 365 customer engagement roughly corresponds to the kind of left half of the circle, maybe the left 40%-ish. But inside of the Power Platform, there are also things like Power Automate and Power Apps. And I think the next session actually covers or explores how you can use Power Platform to do more with less, as it's called. But here we'll talk about some of the first-party applications, the Dynamics 365 customer engagement applications. So customer service basically lets you handle things like cases, customer support, and that sort of thing. So if your customers call in and have a question or an issue with a product or service, this is the kind of application that you might use in a call center or in a membership management team to kind of deal with the customers and track their issues. We'll go more into kind of all its features later. On the sales app side of things, this is kind of what you might think of in a retail or e-commerce kind of environment where your business is selling things to customers. So this lets you track, leads and opportunities, create quotes and invoices, and those do integrate to Business Central as well, which is nice. There's also field service that lets you provide or track on-site services, so you can schedule jobs and see on a map where your customers are and where, if you have a fleet of, field agents, where they have to go and how long it's going to take them to get there and that sort of thing. Project operations, formerly known as project service automation, lets you track projects. So kind of similar conceptually to the field service, except it's more about Gantt charts than it is Google Maps, for example, or Bing Maps, maybe I should say. But it lets you track resources and their capabilities and projects and tasks and who needs to do what when in order to see the project through to completion. It also lets you track time and estimates to see if your projects are profitable or if they're on time, and all that sort of stuff. The marketing one is a big one. It's to an extent kind of not standalone, but it is has its own kind of separate thing within the Dynamics 365 CE world. So this is a marketing automation platform. It lets you build journeys or kind of campaigns to send out kind of email blasts to your customers or members. So you can segment the contacts in the system and then say, okay, everyone who's, had a case closed in the last year, send them an email, asking them, something, right? So you can do kind of nurture campaigns, lead scoring, and then all that kind of marketing automation stuff. Customer voice is kind of like a feedback customer satisfaction system. I believe it was formerly known as Microsoft Forms Pro, so you can use it for pretty much any survey sort of requirement. So if you wanted to send out, a survey to, let's say, people who were going to be attending a conference that you're running, you could send it out with customer voice to ask them if they have any dietary restrictions or that kind of stuff. It can or cannot be tied to a contact, so it could be anonymous, it could be linked to someone specifically, and it can go out through multiple channels. So we'll talk more about that later. So these are the kind of 6 first-party applications we'll be covering today. And I think the first one up here is sales. So sales we're putting first for a couple reasons. The first is that it has the most kind of natural integration to Business Central. And the second is that it is kind of the core one in CRM, in the sense that CRM is a customer relationship management solution, and sales can represent, either retail or e-commerce or even just annual membership stuff. So you've got your accounts and contacts, and then with them you can track leads. So let's say you were capturing business cards in a fishbowl at a conference. You could come back to the sales app and record those as leads, and then follow up with them and qualify those leads, see if they're actually a potential customer. And then when you qualify a lead, it turns into an opportunity where you can have, let's say, a product catalog in the background where you're selecting, okay, this customer is interested in these products, and you can add them to the opportunity and then generate quotes right in the system. So you can send out quotes to your customers through this. And if they say, yeah, let's go ahead, you can convert those into orders and invoices, and those can talk to Business Central. So those can flow right through and into your accounting system, which is a very nice kind of end-to-end integration. So taking a quick look at this, this is kind of what you might see when you first land in the Sales Hub, which is the home of the Sales app. So you can see what activities you have, what opportunities are assigned to you, what leads you have to follow up on. On the left, you can see the sort of navigation in the system. So just to quickly cover off on activities, because this will be true for all 6 apps, activities are things like emails or tasks or meetings or phone calls, and these can integrate directly to Office 365 and your Outlook emails and meetings. So if you put something in your calendar in Outlook, you can integrate it to Dynamics 365 and you would see it here, and it could be related to a contact. So if you were on an opportunity or an account record, you could see, oh, I had a meeting with them last week and I sent an email to them yesterday, in sort of a timeline view. You also have dashboards that kind of show you pipeline reporting. You can do a lot of stuff with this, so these are very configurable. They're not quite as configurable as Power BI, but Dynamics 365 does also have an integration to Power BI. So you could have your Power BI dashboards feeding off of Dynamics 365 data and then displayed here as well. And then finally, this is what, if we're looking at a specific record, like an opportunity, we can see kind of in the middle left there, just some basic data points, like who's the contact, what currency is this in. At the top, you can see where it says that kind of active for 5 days, qualify, propose, contract, close. That's an example of a business process flow. So in the sales app, opportunities kind of have this life cycle, right? Where you identify that there's an opportunity and then you propose something to the customer. And if they go ahead with it, then you close it out. In the middle there, you can see that timeline I was briefly talking about earlier. So you can see there was a task there. Now that could correspond to a to-dos item in Outlook. Again, they integrate, which is very convenient. So you can do a fair amount of work in Dynamics 365 Sales or any of the apps from Outlook, which is kind of nice. Moving on, we have customer service. So customer service is another first-party application that Microsoft offers in Dynamics 365, customer engagement. And it is essentially what you would need to track if you wanted to have, let's say, a mailbox like support@company.com. One of your customers sends an email to that mailbox. The customer service app can integrate to that mailbox, see that an email has come in, automatically create a case record, and if you already have their email address on file, it can tie that case record to their account or contact information so that your customer service agents can just go into CRM, Dynamics 365 CE, whatever you want to call it, and they can see in a queue, these are the cases that have come in. It could be automatically assigned to them based on various routing criteria, or they could just pick items out of the queue to work on, and they can essentially see all the customer information that's in the system. That's kind of the reason for the 365, is it gives you this whole kind of look at the customer. And then they can work on that case. It has its own business process flow going through to completion. And you can have things like service level agreements, so you can see how long the tickets have been in the queue, how long they've been in which stage, and that sort of thing. So taking a look at this is an example of the customer service hub. So you can see aesthetically, it looks very similar to the sales hub, but we have different records in the kind of left-hand navigation, and we're seeing different data points. So that's kind of where the dynamics part of it comes in, is that all these apps kind of leverage the system in the same way to create a very kind of standardized user experience across the platform, so that if someone is familiar with the sales app, it's very little difference between that and the customer service app. So here we can see my active cases, which is all the cases that have been assigned to me. So this is just demo data. I don't actually have 32 outstanding cases on my plate. You can see the origin of the cases. So maybe it came in through the web or a phone call or an email. So if you had a website, you could integrate a form on that posts cases to this queue as web origin. There are a few different ways you can do that kind of thing. Maybe if someone calls in, someone creates a phone case manually, or if it comes into a shared kind of support email, then it automatically creates an email origined case. Similarly, you have different types of dashboards. So you can see all the open cases in a list on the left, and then you can see some pie charts and bar charts to indicate, what different types of cases are there in the system, what priority breakdown do they have. So again, very flexible. There's a few different out-of-the-box dashboards for each of these apps, but they're very easy to extend or customize. This is an example of a case record. So similarly, you can see some data points, the timeline, and business process flow. So the kind of theme here is similar but different, right? So it's the same general sort of user interface, but we're tracking totally different things now. Continuing on, we have field service. So field service lets you manage, let's say, field technicians going out to customer locations to perform tasks. Maybe they're installing equipment or they're performing a repair, that sort of thing. You can track work orders to see, which customers have requested what work, and you can use the system to schedule and coordinate which technicians are going to be doing which work orders where. It also has some integration, I believe, to like IoT or Internet of Things. So you could, if you had kind of a factory with lots of smart machines on the floor, you can integrate them to this so you can track like which machines are at what kind of, how healthy they are, basically. So again, we've got some different dashboards. So you can see different sort of alerts or utilization. You can see like basically a scheduling board, so you can see which of these technicians are assigned to which work orders, and you can even see on the map on the right there where they are and where they're going. So it kind of gives you this very high-level scheduling ability. And then just more dashboards, so you can see how much booking you're doing for these work orders, how long it's taking, whether the technicians are taking more or less time than expected, just basically lots of metrics. Project Operations is another app available. It was formerly known as Project Service Automation, and it lets you track kind of just projects. So you can create tasks, again, kind of like field service, track your different resources and what skills they have. So maybe a task requires, a business analyst, and you have resources who have that as a capability. Then the scheduling component could let you identify who in your organization might be an appropriate resource for this project. So again, we've got some dashboards letting you see kind of different metrics over time for a quote here. You can see a different sort of scheduling board, so you can see how many hours people are scheduled to work and who can, be available for this project, or what the utilization rates look like. And then we've got kind of something that corresponds to the scheduling board and field service. This is like a Gantt chart for your project planning. So you can essentially plan out your projects, assign the resources, and kind of manage it all through this version of the scheduling board for project operations. Now, marketing is a little more exciting because it ties some of this stuff together. So the marketing app lets you essentially send marketing campaigns. So it's a marketing automation platform, and it lets you identify the contacts in the system that you want to segment. So you could say, find all the people who live in this province or this state to send an email blast to, letting them know that it's 20% off for the next week or something like that. It lets you do kind of all the standard marketing automation, marketing campaign stuff. So you could have nurture or drip campaigns. You can do lead scoring. You can do lead routing. So if someone clicks on this link, it sends them down this path. And if they click on that link, it schedules a follow-up call or something like that. It also has some nice kind of analytics so that you can see how people are engaging with your content. So this is an example of creating a segment. So you can basically use this kind of query editor to identify who you want to include in your marketing list. And then you can see here an example of a journey. So these can either be kind of trigger based, or they can be kind of like a mail blast, right? So you could either say manually send an email to everyone in this marketing segment, or you can say whenever this trigger event happens, such as someone opts into this event, then send an email. And you can see how you can start building like branching logic within it. So if they click a link in the email, then maybe they get a follow-up email in a few days. And if they don't, then you let them be, or do whatever you want with this. And then the really nice thing is that you can see once these journeys are live, how many people have gone down which of these branches. So you can see in this case, this journey has targeted 12,300 people. And based on an attribute in the system about the people it targeted, it either sends them a different message or sends them down one branch or the other. And then you can see, of course, things like if there were bounces or clicks or different stats about the emails in the right there. Customer voice is kind of in a similar vein. So customer voice is that survey tool, formerly known as Microsoft Forms Pro. So it lets you create and send out surveys to different contacts or customers in the system through a variety of channels. And it lets you track and analyze the responses, and you can tie that into all the other different applications. Whenever a case is closed, then let's send out a survey, like a customer satisfaction survey, to the customer and ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, how was your experience, that sort of thing, right? And then you can analyze the responses, and you could even have alerts set up so that, let's say they put 1 out of 10, then that flags it for someone to follow up on and see like, wow, where did we go so wrong, right? So you can see here you get a sort of what you see is what you get editor for the surveys. So it's kind of very just drag and drop. You can add new questions from the right there, different types. And then when you're happy with it, you can configure how and when it gets sent out. So you can see here, if you're looking very closely, it says through Power Automate. So you can essentially kind of create and tie a flow in Power Automate to this so that whenever a case is closed, it sends out the survey. And the system is very flexible, so you can have that tied into a number of other apps, right? You could say, okay, whenever an opportunity is won, send out something, right? Basically, whatever is in the system is all kind of configured and available for these sort of triggers and business events. And then these surveys basically become activities in the timeline. So we're looking here at a case. We can see the case was aborted after 3 days. And we can see that in the timeline, it sent out a survey to this customer to get their feedback. And I guess see, maybe was your solution resolved? What's up, basically. Now, those are the kind of 6 of the out-of-the-box apps, but the really nice thing about Dynamics 365 customer engagement is that it is basically synonymous with the Dataverse. So anything you can do in Dataverse, you can do in this system. So if you wanted to create your own app that met your own business's needs, that's very possible. We have many customers who have engaged us to help develop very custom deployments of this system for them, from tracking things like chickens to scopes of accreditation or all sorts of things. We've got quite a few clients who are membership-based organizations, so, things that start with C and end with A. The Canadian something something association. There's quite a few out there, but you can have all the contacts are your members. Going back to the top of the meeting where we talked about the Business Central integration, that too can be customized. So it doesn't have to be accounts to customers in BC. You could have contacts in CRM or CE going to the customer record in BC. So if you're tracking annual membership dues, you can do it through the system. One of our most common thing is finding and eliminating, very siloed Excel spreadsheets, where different business analysts or different staff have their own spreadsheets that they use for their business processes. Basically, anything you can track in an Excel spreadsheet or an Access database or that kind of thing, you can build into CRM or Dynamics 365 CE. So if you had a tab where you were tracking, let's say you're running a veterinarian clinic, right? And you have customers and they have pets. So maybe the customers become your contacts and you want to create a custom table called pets or animals. So you can track, which of your clients has which animal, and you can add different fields to those tables. So you can say, well, what type? Is it a cat? Is it a dog? Is it a bird? When was it born? All those sorts of details. So it's very flexible in that sense and very powerful. All those tables, like cases, contacts, anything you create custom, they all have a lot of default functionality that comes with them in the system. So maybe you want to create your own custom query. So you want to say, find me all the pets that are dogs of this breed over this age. Then you get a list and you can export that to an Excel file. So you don't have to track and maintain everything in these different Excel files on this shared drive or that shared drive. You can just, store it in CRM in one central spot and then get it out as needed, if needed, because you can do mail merge and that sort of stuff in the system directly as well. So it's very powerful and very flexible. It really, anything you can think of, you can track, basically.
Thank you so much, Matt, for that excellent and very insightful presentation. Again, thank you very much to everybody. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Bye.